All right, I think we're ready to roll.
You're listening to Words Like That with Cole Powell, a storytelling podcast.
All right, this is Words Like That. I'm Cole Powell. We're going to be trying a bit of a different format here with varying episode lengths for the podcast, primarily because shorter episodes are all I have the time to produce right now, but also because short-form content is beginning to be accepted in the podcast world beyond YouTube and into Spotify, Apple, etc. So, today's episode, Queen Sells Out. This was originally reported in Variety on June 19th. Queen, one of the greatest rock bands of all time, has reportedly sold their catalog to Sony for $1.27 billion US dollars. Queen follows other classic rock acts such as Bob Dylan and Bruce Springsteen in recently selling their catalog to Sony for a hefty sum. Now, it should be noted that some of the North American rights will remain with Disney and Universal due to pre-existing agreements, but most of the global rights and royalties will transfer to Sony. Okay, so first, when I, as a singer, songwriter, and creator, see stories like these, I just have to scratch my head. I think of this in light of all the predatory contracts of the 50s, 60s, and 70s when the modern music industry was in its infancy and crooked labels and managers and agents were duping innocent young talent into signing away their rights to their songs. And this was a practice that later spawned a number of lawsuits involving high-profile acts like Tom Petty, the Eagles, and my personal musical hero, John Fogerty. Now, Fogerty recently went the opposite direction of Queen and some of these other acts by buying back a majority stake in his old catalog. And that's a move that makes a lot more sense to me. It's like if somebody has kidnapped your kids, and the only way you can get them back is to pay a ransom. What would you do? You'd pay the ransom. In the case of Queen, Dylan, and other artists, it's like somebody has offered to buy your kids for a lot of money to use them for slave labor, and your response is, okay, yeah, sure, deal. And I use children in this analogy because when I first started writing songs as a teenager, my songs were the closest things I had to children at the time. Now, I knew even then that songs are not really comparison to children, and I can confirm that now that I have actual children. Even still, each song was special to me. Each song still is special to me, even the ones I've never released or have no intention of ever releasing, or that I've grown to be irritated by, or that are objectively bad, and I've subsequently cannibalized them to create better songs, or scrapped them all together. They're special because they originate from a similar place as the natural human desire to have children, which is a drive to create and nurture something that will survive as a legacy after we're gone. So for me, the idea of selling the rights to my songs would be unconscionable. And I know it's a lot of money, but I've personally never been in this for the money. I've been in the music industry officially for almost 14 years now, and if I were in it for the money, I would have quit 12 years ago. Same with this podcast. I've been producing episodes when I can for almost a year now, and I'm making virtually zilch on this show, and factoring in time and resources, I'm losing money, but I keep doing it because it's something I want and feel like I need to do. Regardless, these guys don't need the money at all. So why sell? Why are they doing this? Or is that just it? They're well-seasoned fellas, and they know realistically they've only got a limited number of years left. So are they looking at this as, we don't need the continued royalty money, so why not just cash in, live out the remainder of our lives on it, and bequeath the rest to our posterity? Which I'm sure they're going to be getting some royalty money, but still they're selling the rights to their songs. Now, I've reached nowhere near the level these guys have, and realistically I never will. I'm also much younger than they are, so maybe my perspective will change if I live that long, but as it stands, unless my family were in dire need of cash, I can't fathom relinquishing ownership of my creations like that, no matter how big the check. But beyond that, I'm also concerned about the growing corporate conglomerates buying up all the world's intellectual property. Originally, copyright laws were designed to incentivize artists to create art. If legal protections are in place that allow artists to earn money from their art without fear of infringement, artists are more likely to create more original works. And this is how I and many other independent artists have been able to make what little money we have as singer-songwriters. And I own many composition copyrights myself, and as an indie record label owner, I also own copyrights of master recordings. As art industries have developed, though, these multinational corporations have been afforded the same protections as individual creators, which has allowed them to buy up intellectual property en masse, then leverage their money and power to globally control art. And this isn't just the music industry. This is in the film industry, the television industry, and the publishing industry. In the U.S., you have companies like Disney who have successfully lobbied lawmakers to repeatedly overhaul copyright laws to benefit corporations and stifle smaller creators who lack resources to fight corporate-led challenges to their own endeavors. As a result, works that should have long entered the public domain, like Mickey Mouse, and become eligible for creative derivation, have been locked in corporate IP vaults under the full protection of the law. And like it or not, accept it or don't, there are really no new human stories under the sun. You can change some trappings, you can have new technologies that have developed put into these stories, but the stories of the human condition have all been told. And derivation has been the backbone of storytelling since time immemorial. But when entities are allowed to control the use of works for over a century, talented creatives are prevented from being able to create new derivative works which could surpass the originals and positively impact culture potentially far into the future. Here's an example. Had modern copyright laws existed in 16th century Europe, Shakespeare probably would never have written Romeo and Juliet, because if he had, he could have been sued by William Paynter, who penned the anthological Palace of Pleasure, and also whoever had ended up with the rights to Arthur Brooks' The Tragical History of Romeo and Juliet, which were the two works that Shakespeare used as the basis for his play. Then again, neither Paynter nor Brooke would have probably ever written their works because they would have been scared they were going to get sued by whoever had obtained the rights to Matteo Bandello's original tale, which all of these works are ultimately based on. In addition to all that, when we're talking about fair use, which fair use is the right of a second party to use copyrighted material for certain purposes, platforms like YouTube grant copyright owners / managers the exclusive right to say whether another creator's use of copyrighted material is fair or not. If the owner or manager rules that the use of a given copyrighted work isn't fair, in the legal sense, the creator who used the copyrighted material has little recourse to argue, even if it's legitimately fair use. The bigger the copyright owner or manager, the less ability the independent creator has to fight. And we've experienced this ourselves on the Randomine Records channel, where I do a lot of reaction content. No matter how transformative, educational, or critical, which are all legal criteria for fair use in the U.S., no matter how much our videos meet the criteria, if a copyright owner or manager says that our content's use of copyrighted material isn't fair use, we lose the right to control the video as we see fit, even though the majority of the content, the majority of the video, is our creations commenting on, reacting to the copyrighted work. Worst case scenario, and this has not happened, thank goodness, the worst case scenario, we could receive a copyright strike. And if we get 3 copyright strikes in 90 days, we lose our channel forever. And there's not really anything we can do about it. So unless copyright laws change, I think every intellectual property dump like this, like what we're seeing with Queen, is a harm, or at least has the potential to be a harm, to art as an industry and human creativity as a whole. So what do y'all think? Why do you think Queen is doing this? What do you think about this sale in general? Why would you do it if you were offered this kind of money? Would you sell your creations? Do you think corporate stockpiling of intellectual property is a good thing? Should corporations be allowed to own intellectual property for a century or more, or should they be allowed to own it, period? Let us know in the comments, or you can send us an email. We're hoping to get an actual .com domain email address soon, but in the meantime, you can send it to randominerecords@yahoo.com, subject line, words like that. And we hope to be answering some comments live on air, so you may see your comment come up in the future. And that'll do it for this episode. I'm going to try to get episodes out more regularly and hope to have another episode out within the next week or so. So stay tuned, and we'll see you then.
Like that. Theme, Words Like That by Cole Powell. Lead in by Ryan Percy. From Wicked Woman by Four Way Stop. Original cover photo by Kelly Bagwell. Recorded at Randomine Records. Section 107 of U.S. copyright law allows for the fair use of copyrighted material for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, parody, or research.